What's going on? This is TJ Murphy, and welcome to another episode of Adventurous Entrepreneurs. My guest today is Kay Miller, best-selling author, sales expert, and creator of the Uncopyable framework. Known for her remarkable journey from being one of the first women in the automotive exhaust industry, earning her the unforgettable nickname Muffler Mama, to becoming the top national salesperson. Kay shares invaluable insights into building a personal brand that stands out and drives success. In this episode, we dive into the principles behind her book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets, and how curiosity, authenticity, and intentionality play critical roles in creating a memorable and profitable personal brand. Kay explains the concept of stealing genius, which I love, and why focusing on your moose, aka your ideal customer, is key to success. And also how being bold enough to learn from other industries can spark innovation. Along the way, Kay shares 3 personal stories from her career while discussing the values that guided her life, and reveals how intentional branding has allowed her to balance work, adventure, and family. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative, or anyone looking to make an unforgettable impact, this episode is packed with the actionable advice and inspiration that you need to hear. Just a few of the golden takeaways Kay shares in this episode are Kay's journey to becoming a top salesperson and the story behind how she earned the nickname Muffler Mama, why curiosity and customer empathy are game changers in sales and branding, the importance of intentionality in designing your personal and business brand, how to ethically steal genius from other industries to innovate and succeed in yours, the role of authenticity, values, and being memorable in creating an uncopyable brand, and practical steps to start building your personal brand today. So, without further ado, this is me and Kay Miller. Welcome to the Adventurous Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Murphy. Since quitting my corporate 9-to-5 and starting a business while backpacking through Asia back in early 2017, I've had the privilege of learning from some incredibly adventurous entrepreneurs. Through these conversations and my own journey, I've learned that much like in life, entrepreneurship is an adventure. On this podcast, I explore the journeys of top-performing leaders in their fields. These wide-ranging conversations include tactical business advice, how I built this insights, lessons in leadership, life hacks, travel stories, favorite hobbies, and insights into living a purposeful and joy-filled life. Adventures await us, so let's dive in. Hey, Kay, welcome to Adventurous Entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, really excited. I know you're coming off of a book launch, bestseller, so we're going to talk all about that. But I'd love to start with a bit of background on your journey, give people a little bit of your background, who you are, and I thought I'd start with your curious nickname, Muffler Mama. It's very unique and memorable, so how did that come about, and what's the story there?
Well, that's a great place to start because, yes, I have that nickname, which Muffler Mama, I don't know if anybody, hasn't claimed it because it's unique or they don't want to claim it. It's not exactly glamorous, but it has really carried me through many years of sales success. So starting with college, which I won't say my age, but it was a lot later than you graduated from college. I was one of the first women hired by an automotive exhaust company, and it's called Walker Exhaust. It's still around. Well, I knew nothing about automotive exhaust systems. So I wanted to learn, and that's been one of my, foundational principles through my sales career. I want to learn about the customer, which is everything. You hear that's just so common. But I really wanted to put myself in the customer's shoes. And it's kind of funny because when I went to one of my distributor's customers and asked, can I come to your shop for a day and learn to install a muffler? The first thing he said was, you need to go to Red Wing Shoes and buy steel toe boots.
Yep.
So I was literally 25 years old then, and that was not my idea of styling for sure. No. But it turned into a comical story, which I tell in my book, which is Uncopyable Sales Secrets. And word got around because no other sales rep had done that with our company or the competition.
Wow.
Man or woman, nobody had said, I want to learn exactly what you go through. And I learned a lot from that. Don't want to go too deep into that, but things like the fact that our mufflers had a lifetime warranty. Well, and the competition did too. So what's the differentiation? Well, one of the things that I learned by immersing myself in their world is that when you get a free replacement muffler from the manufacturer, it only includes the muffler. So it doesn't include all the labor, so it pays to have a premium product. And those are the kinds of things that I learned by really, getting my boots on the ground, so to speak. So that's where that comes from. Long time ago, 40 years ago, and it just gave away my age. And so, you know what? It's followed me ever since, and I've embraced it.
Well, hey, part of what we're going to be talking about today, personal branding, you've definitely taken that and run with it, and it's served you well. I love the curiosity piece, no matter whether you're in marketing and sales, really anything in life, being curious to that level that you were. I mean, literally no one else had done it before. And when you go that deep, it's going to set you apart from the rest of the pack. So whether that's personal branding, whether that's trying to be the top salesperson in your company, having that skill set of curiosity is such a tremendous thing to build up. So kudos. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure there's lots of other elements or times where that served you well. But let's talk about the book.
Well, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, please.
I left that important detail out. I became the number one salesperson in the national sales force as one of just a few women. So, the skills of men and women, a lot of it is, similar, but I'll just say, I think in some ways women have an edge. I was obviously at a disadvantage being a woman, and yet it was also a differentiator. So,
Totally.
I used strategy, the concept of being curious and really caring about my customer and their success. Those components led me to be the number one salesperson in the nation. So that was quite the thrill. I got a big trophy. I never got sports trophies, so finally I have a trophy.
Yep. Well, that's a good one to hang up on the wall for sure. And I'm sure at that age, that also helped set you up on a good financial path as well. You learned valuable sales skills.
Right. Commissions. I mean, I won a trophy, but let's get real.
Well, I want those
it's about earning money.
Dollars and cents, baby.
Right. Put your money where your mouth is, right?
Totally. All right. Well, your book, which you co-authored, Uncopyable You, focuses on what we've already alluded to here, creating a personal brand that is unforgettable. Can you break down what it means to have an uncopyable personal brand?
Well, I sure can. I'm glad you asked that question. Our whole foundational principle is uncopyable for our business. And by the way, our official business name is the Adventure LLC. And we have the adventure.com website. So
very
It's
fitting.
funny. You're such
I saw you had that URL. I was like, wow, that is a great domain to have. I'm jealous.
And that was back, we got it probably before you were born. But so that is, I wanted to throw that in. And I hope we get a chance to talk about some of our adventures.
Absolutely.
But the big framework, I guess, for me and how I view this is that products and services are copyable. And, if you are selling mufflers, someone else can sell mufflers. And in, the case I just gave you, the example, we did have a superior product, but someone could go out and copy that product exactly. Services, I work sometimes with network marketers who are selling exactly the same thing as the competition.
Yep.
So your personal brand is really everything. I have examples of companies now not my product, but companies who have actually bought a product that might have been a little bit inferior or a little bit more expensive. I share a couple stories in my sales book where I feature a salesperson, and he works for a distributor, sells janitorial products, and he asks his customers, what is the best product in the world going to do for you if you can't get it? So it's really, if you have someone and your personal brand has got to be about the other person, right? Everything is about the other person in every arena of life. One of my favorite books ever is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And okay, the whole crux of that book is be curious and listen.
Yeah.
So do it, being curious about someone, interested in what they're about is huge in personal branding, and it's so simple. Now, this has to align with a couple things, and one of them is your values. What's your purpose, your mission? I know that adventure is absolutely part of what you do.
Totally.
And you not only are an extreme adventurer from what I have seen online, but you build that into your podcast name and everything that you do. So that is one of your values. And then you need to think about who your moose is, which is what we call your target market. So when you think avatar or persona or target market, we call that your moose. And it's become very memorable because if you're hunting moose, you don't want to waste time on bears and, rabbits and whatever else.
Focus on the moose.
Focus on the moose. And that's always been one of my trade secrets. I say secret. Of course, these aren't secrets. They're things that we just might not be doing anymore. But when I first reached number one, I'll tell you what, a lot of it was strategy. Which new distributors are going to bring me the most money? Which ones can I serve the best? Which will give me the biggest bang for my buck because I only have a limited amount of time. So those are the foundations. And then the other thing is doing things to be memorable, which I'm going to stop talking for a minute and see what else you want to know.
Well, I'm curious. I always like to hear real world stories, and your book became a bestseller. I'm sure you've heard some of that feedback loop from people who read the book and were able to transform their personal brand and have some incredible success as a result. Do you have any examples that come to mind?
Well, one of the examples, yes, is a company who has a brand. I'm not going to mention their name exactly because we did a deep dive into, we called them the rules of engagement. So we had rules internally and externally. So that has really allowed them to present their brand in a different way. And it's helped their salespeople stand out big time. And they sell huge, large ticket items in the aerospace and automotive trucking industry. So even though I don't have exact numbers, it has, one sale in that industry.
Lots of zeros in there.
A lot of zeros, like Austin Powers said, $1 million. You remember that line?
Yeah.
So yes, so that's a good example of something that just happened. We went through that process and they were able to really have a cohesive message that has increased their sales and also gotten them in the door with more prospects.
And so how about for your own personal brand? I mean, you talk about the moose, which I hope everyone notices in the background. If you're watching the video, we've got the moose hanging over the books there, which I love. How has having that uncopyable personal brand impacted your own journey and the multiple ventures that you've been a part of and the lifestyle you've been able to build because of all that success?
Well, it's been a huge deal. And one thing I want to point out to you listening is that you might start out with a personal brand that morphs over time. And I've definitely done that. I mean, my dad worked for the same company his whole career. And that's what people used to do. And now we're reinventing ourselves all the time. I'm close to the traditional age of retirement, which I can't believe. I don't feel like that. I actually do work part-time now because I love to do all those adventurous things and other things. But your personal brand, before I even knew what that was, back in the day of my outside sales career, I liked to tell my customer what my branding promise was. And that's something that you can do. And whether you do it and you just say, I care about your business. I want to help you succeed. If you don't succeed, I don't succeed. So let's find what really fits, what really solves your problem. And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest branding secrets is if the sale isn't right, walk away. So, that really proves that you're genuine. All my sales have been relationship sales that are ongoing. And, you talk about the know, like, and trust factor. We add be memorable because even if you have this brand where they know your values, you have a branding promise, you're curious about them, and you want to come up with a solution, what if they don't remember you? According to AI, which of course I don't totally trust, each person is subjected to like 4,000 messages a day. I don't know if that's true, but
I think it could be even more.
It's a lot. I get 300 emails a day. And so we have to break through the noise. So not only do you have a unique branding promise, but you also have symbols or that we have that help you be memorable. And as if you're watching, you'll see that I'm wearing orange, my background is orange, every one of our products is orange. And if you right now Google K Miller, which is a very common name, Muffler Mama, and Uncopyable, 2 out of the 3, I will be the only one that comes up. So when people see orange, our clients send us stuff all the time. I should have brought some props. Last year, somebody sent a Merry Chris moose.
Oh my
and
gosh,
it mooed when you opened. And somebody else sent me actually a Christmas scene from Lennox that had a moose. We get pictures all the time. So not only does that resonate with our moose and our customers, but I'm always so flattered when they send me a gift because that means I'm doing my job. It's gone way beyond business, and that's part of my personal brand too. The other day, someone sent me a video of her new grandbaby, her first grandbaby. Oh my gosh, his name is Drew. I already know that. I know he's 6 weeks old. Things like that. That's part of my brand. And again, anytime you're curious and interested in someone else, they're going to like you, basically. It's like, how do you get someone to like you? Like them. I mean, I already like you based on what I saw online with you and your wife and adventuring and, talking to people on your podcast because you want to be a lifelong learner. So all of those wrap into your brand. It's a recipe, not one thing. And if you can be the one who, whatever you do, zip line and bungee jump or all the things you do, if that becomes part of your persona and brand and your story, then that's uncopyable.
Truly. Yeah. I mean, we live in a world where everybody's trying to just copy other people's success, right? And
right.
Someone else's recipe, might get you like a little bit of the way to where you want to go, but at the end of the day, you're never going to be as good as they are at being them. So finding your own moose, if you will, what are you going to really stand for is so important. And as you mentioned earlier, it really should boil down to your values. Adventure, I literally have it's a deck of cards with 52 different values on them, and there's a whole exercise that I went through to figure out which ones are the most important to me, and one of them is adventure, and I look at it every day. It's right there in front of me.
I know this is about me, but I'm curious what that process was that you took. Why don't you share with the listeners, how did you do that?
Yeah, it was guided. It was actually at a conference. It was guided by a coach, and this was a few years ago, so I'm probably not going to remember exactly what the process was, but you have all these values in front of you. You kind of spread that entire deck of cards out in front of you on a big table, and there was some method of kind of categorizing them based on things that you thought were similar and unique to you, and basically you would just kind of process of elimination until you got down to 5 of them that were your core values. And for me, it was adventure, fun, courage, people, and family. And that really stood out to me. Those were the 5 cards that kind of right away when I looked at them all, I put them in the short list. And then as I went through the rest of the process, I was like, yeah, no, those are the ones. So usually even if someone asks you that question, it might be a little ambiguous. I know people are important to me, or family's important to me. It can be kind of overwhelming to really come up with 5 if you've never done it before. But usually that gut instinct is correct. And I've gone through a similar exercise in different formats over the years, and it always boils down to similar to those 5: fun, courage, people, family, adventure, which I think is really cool. So
good for you. And I think it's a process. You've got to put thought into it. We talked about the word intentional before we recorded, and that is, if you don't have, your North Star or whatever, you can kind of get pulled in all these different directions. And so being intentional, I had a podcast guest on named Kate Strachnyi, and I don't know the episode, but she has been super successful in the world of data. And her definition of a personal brand, and it's not really original, I found out, is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Yeah. So, I also had this big discussion about know, like, and trust. Do they need to know you? Well, yes. And they don't need to just know you because you're a LinkedIn connection or you've met them. You need them to know you. It's not always who you know, but who knows you, right? Yeah. So putting intention into that like you have. And again, that might morph. It sounds like you've got principles that will carry you through your life. Those are all good ones, but it might change. It might be worth reevaluating.
Shift. Yeah. I think all of those things, whether it's goals, values, values tend to stand the test of time, but you might have, some things that shift over the years as you enter into different seasons. But as you were saying, your brand, if you're 20 years old, may evolve drastically by the time you're 50 or 60 years old, and that's okay. But the word that keeps getting bounced around here, we even, I think, said it 2 or 3 times before we started recording, was intentionality. And I know you emphasize creating a brand intentionally rather than accidentally or just copying someone else's way of going about things. What are some of the dangers of letting your brand evolve without being intentional and having that direction behind it?
That's a good idea. That's a good question. Yeah. So if you don't really intentionally build your brand, I guess the best way I can put it is that your brand will happen and it might not align with what's really important to you. You might be not authentic and genuine. And that's something I wanted to bring up too, because you are definitely genuine, authentic. People know who you are. So that will carry you through, I'm sure, the rest of your life. And it should for everyone to be genuine and authentic. So if you find yourself in a world where maybe you're being, you said that little voice or your gut check, it might not feel right. You might be involved with clients that you think, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't fit our brand. And in our company, The Adventure, which we have the Uncopyable framework, we actually have rules of doing business with us. And our daughter's 32 now, but when she was at home, her birthday, August 16th, was always blocked off. And it was sacred. Steve, my husband, who was traveling a ton, would not work on Kelly's birthday. And we have rules. We fired clients because they wanted us to do things like have huge legalese contract. Our contracts have always been 2 pages. So really knowing who you are and what you stand for will keep you on track. And I just feel like if you don't put the thought into that, you might end up being somebody you're not, and doing something you don't enjoy and you don't find meaningful, going through the motions. Money is great, but there are a lot of different ways to earn money. So you want to have everything come together in basically your personal brand.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so true. You mentioned the definition of personal brand, what other people say about you when you're not in the room. If you're not intentional about that, they might be saying the wrong thing that isn't genuine to your values, how you want to show up, what you're even trying to do in the world. So designing your brand around that perception you want people to have and the action you want them to take with you is so important. And the same applies to business. We talk all about designing your business around the lifestyle that you want to have, the life of your dreams that you're trying to create. So many people start a business and they just get shackled to it, and they never realize that dream because they didn't design it in a way where that freedom was obtainable. Usually in the beginning, you got to grind, you got to sacrifice a little bit, but you have to have that kind of testing point where, okay, I've made it to the point where now I can start to do some of the things I set out to do. For you, taking your daughter's birthday off every year. For me, taking multiple international trips every year and having the freedom and flexibility to go on adventures throughout the week, whether that's skiing. We've got Mount Bachelor. I live here in beautiful Bend, Oregon, 30 minutes
Wait a minute,
from my
you
house.
live in Bend, Oregon? I'm in Seattle, and we used to have a house for years in Sun River.
Yeah, exactly. So you know it well. I mean, now that it's ski season, I block off days on my calendar where I'll be up there midweek where there's no lines and I can just enjoy. So that was all stuff that when I was thinking about my business and how I wanted to design it were all the important goals that I wanted to focus on. Yeah, I wanted to make money, but I also wanted to be able to have that freedom and time to do the things that I love with the people that I care about most.
Right, and that's a great example of how you can get swept into, like you said, grinding. And, I have spent my years that I was grinding, but now, like you, I ski Mount Rainier, not different mountain, take a ski bus every week, travel a lot. I just hiked with friends in St. George. I went to Guatemala on a mission trip. I took up the piano a couple of years ago, and now I'm addicted. So yes, the balance of your life might change. And also, through the years, our daughter played golf, and she played junior golf, high school golf, and then college golf at Portland State University.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, either both of us or one of us, was at every single golf match. Oh, so you talk about family first. I have a VA, and she just, we had a Zoom call, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, one of my sons was crying." I said, well, number one, I didn't hear it. And number two, family first.
Yeah, don't apologize for that.
You take care of him. We can talk later. Yeah. So, yes, those are values that I hope everyone listening agrees with. But, totally. If you don't have kids or whatever your lifestyle is, that intention is just huge, as you already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know another thing that I wanted to touch on from the book was this concept of stealing genius. We've already mentioned, you don't want to just copy someone and what they're doing and their brand because that's not going to be authentic to you. But in your book, you discuss stealing genius. How can entrepreneurs ethically use that concept, ethically and effectively use that concept to innovate in their own personal and business branding?
Well, I love the concept of stealing genius because copying is involved, but the copying comes from outside your world. And my favorite example is when we took a group of clients who were in the manufacturing industry and took them on field trips all over. FedEx hub in the middle of the night, the Disney underground, the tunnels, and learning how that all worked. But this group of manufacturers we took to the American Girl doll store.
Oh yeah, my little sister was obsessed. Is probably still obsessed, but back in the day, she would get an American Girl doll and all the accessories every year. That was the number one thing on her Christmas list. So.
Yeah, and boy, talk about a business model. They turned a doll into an empire. And Kelly had Felicity, and I still have a whole trunk of clothes and dogs and tents and ski outfits. So I'll tell you what, if you have a daughter and they like American Girl, I hope you have a high credit limit. High credit limit. I hope you have a high credit limit.
It ain't cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap. And so, but you can imagine a manufacturer going to the American Girl doll store. So again, they've taken this doll and they've wrapped it in an experience. You can look at each doll in Chicago. That's where we went, Chicago. You can look at each doll has a huge collection. and there's a story involved, a history. There's songs and books, and so number one, it's taking a concept and just blowing it up, but it's again all very intentional. And at the time in Chicago, they even had at the lunch table there was a little kid seat, whatever you call it, not a booster seat. It actually kind of hung off the table, and you bring your doll. And you eat.
Oh yeah.
You eat lunch with your doll.
My sister had one of those too.
Did she?
Oh yeah.
I love your sister. Do you remember the name of her American Girl doll by chance?
Man, I don't. Felicity, for sure, she had that one. I know she had multiple though. She had multiple of them.
And yeah,
I probably remember if I heard the names.
Yeah, that's long gone out of my world, unless I have grandkids, which I wouldn't mind. But this concept they were planning major events. So the stories and the history and the experience of the large events became totally different using the concepts of the American Girl store. So it is stealing ideas and then morphing them to what you want to do. Do you want to have a whole case and a history of the story of your company, or do you want to provide these peripheral, like the books and all these added things that, you might take for granted? I've worked with clients, and their salespeople go into make a sales call, and they just don't see things. They don't see that, what? If they move this inventory a little, there's space on the shelf for more. So, those are some of the things that you can use. We've had people we live in Seattle, as I mentioned. We have groups of clients we've taken to the Mariners games because, of course, sporting events. Oh my gosh. Have you been to a Kraken game?
I have not, no.
It's like hockey on crack.
Oh my gosh.
But guess what? I've never tried crack.
Yeah, but you can imagine.
It's such an experience. The venue is called Climate Pledge Arena, and you're from the Northwest, so you get it. Yep. But people across the country are like crazy. What is that? It was developed by Amazon, and you won't see one Amazon logo or word in the building. So cool. We've gone to the formerly called the EMP Experimental Music Project, and I can't remember what it's called now, the Pop Museum, but museums and Starbucks. We went to the original Starbucks store on Capitol Hill, which they've become, it's become the Reserve. So when you do things like that, you can take little pieces of what you're learning and saying, oh, I could apply that to my business, but not just as is. And the big game-changing difference is that you're not looking at your own industry. So that is, to me, in a very big nutshell, stealing genius. And I'm going to add one more thing. I don't know if you've heard of Teatro Zinzani.
No.
It's in Seattle, downtown Seattle, and they have another location in Chicago. But it's a cabaret, Cirque du Soleil dinner theater. And we actually had the founder of that organization, One Reel is what his umbrella company is, Norm Langille, and he said the dinner theater is so much more than that, and it's designed so that even if you go twice, you will never have the same experience. There is so much going on. It's just crazy. If you ever are in this area listening, Teatro Zinzani is one of the most amazing experiences ever. I've been many times.
Oh, so cool. I'll have to definitely do that. We haven't been to Seattle in a while, but that'll be on our list. I think the biggest thing that I love, so much of what you just said I love, but especially the looking outside of your industry for that genius, because there's so much innovation that you can apply, and most people don't do that. They're so focused on their competition, focused on the tools, the innovation happening in their industry, but there's so much out there, so much more that you can learn if you open your eyes and look in the periphery on what's going on in the greater landscape that you can bring in and mold and morph into innovation in your company or in your brand. So great ideas.
And I have one more for you. I don't know how much time we have, but
we got time.
For the last 2 years now, AI has been, I'm sure you have a clean podcast, so I'm not going to swear, but it's been
you can swear.
I don't really swear. Frickin' amazing. And you can look, what does the world think of you? If I look, who's Kay Miller, I get an answer. But if you have a company, we just did that with that company I mentioned, coming up with their playbook, their rules, guidelines. Ask AI, what do you think? How is this company perceived? Okay, it gives you the answer. What are their competitive advantages? What are your competition's advantages?
Yeah.
Use AI to help you define your own brand. And if you have clients, help them define their brand. And you can ask, how can I differentiate myself using what you know about my company or brand online? I can't even believe it. I don't know how much you use AI for your...
Oh, we do exactly what you're describing for all of our clients. So
There you go. So it's not a
Yeah.
big secret to someone like you who's cutting edge. But when I work with small business owners who are just wrapped up in running their business day to day, they don't always think of that.
No, exactly. And that's who we work with. And it's such a huge aha moment of like, oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's
never
just
would've thought of
crazy.
that.
I mean, I just read that the founder just announced they're making a bunch of changes. They're going to offer video, and you can do like text to video and video to video. The book that we just wrote is probably going to be narrated by a version of my voice. I went to a
so cool.
studio, read some paragraphs, and when it comes back, we will be public about the fact that it's AI, but it's very hard to tell the difference.
Yeah.
My last book, I spent hours and hours recording. So AI is it's blowing my mind.
Game changer, yeah. And it's early days. Things are about to really take off rapidly over the next couple of years. So I'm glad you're able to harness some of that value, not for yourself, not just for yourself, but for your clients as well.
Yeah. So you listening, I mean, there's a free version of ChatGPT. They're adding new levels. We have a higher level now. I think they're going to add another level. But if you're not using ChatGPT, go play with it. It's talk about a resource that I could have never dreamed of back in the day when I was on my IBM Selectric in college, writing my papers.
Oh, it's a total game changer. Yeah, I wish I had ChatGPT when I was in college. Gosh.
Of course, that brings up a whole new set of problems, which we won't discuss now.
For sure. And I don't know the answers to them, so we won't go down that rabbit hole. But you mentioned adventure. I mean, that is a huge part of my brand. And so a question I always ask before we wrap things up is what I like to call the choose your own adventure question. And it sounds like you love to travel and go on adventures. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share. But you can pick which one you'd like to answer, or both if you so desire, or take it any way you want, really. It's choose your own adventure. So what's a favorite place that you just love to visit? Whether you've been there once, twice, 100 times, it just never gets old, or just a recent travel adventure that you went on, favorite place you visited recently. And in either case, what made it so memorable? Maybe a favorite meal or drink you had, a lesson you learned, who you were with, someone you met. Give us the story.
Well, I'm prepared for this one because I've listened to some of your other podcasts in preparation. But it's hard to answer, so I'm going to kind of twist it a little bit. But Italy is my favorite place that I've been. I've been there multiple times, and my girlfriends, who we've been friends since college, 7 of us, and we're at retirement age, are planning a trip to hike the Dolomites in September, and that's in Italy. So I love Italy. But a recent trip that I took that I hope you listening, this might open your eyes a little bit, but my husband Steve and I just went to the Olympic rainforest, which is just a couple hours away. And it's world renowned. And in Washington, in Oregon, where you are, every state, every area has amazing adventure opportunities that we might take for granted, not be interested in. We might be traveling halfway across the world when we really haven't explored what's right in our back door. And the Olympic rainforest is very unusual. It's one of the very few temperate rainforests, it's called. It's by the ocean. It has moderate temperatures, and I wrote down how much rain they get.
Okay. How much?
Do you care to guess, or do you want me to just tell you?
Oh, I would
A
have
year.
a lot, I would imagine, but
12 to 14 feet of rain a
oh
year.
my gosh.
So I know it's not bad enough in Seattle. You're
That's
very dry. You
crazy.
have a dry climate, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But
Well, besides the drought, but yeah.
yeah, besides the drought,
Water
right.
shortages and all that, but otherwise
yeah.
it's beautiful.
You listening, just a reminder to make sure that you explore what's right around you. I mean, I still haven't done that. There are all kinds of old railroad hikes, and Mount Rainier is just incredible. I ski there, I hike there. But yes, that's going to be my favorite adventure. And I went with my husband, Steve, and we were celebrating our 37th wedding anniversary.
Congrats.
So
That's awesome.
that itself, and of course, I can't go into the details of everything that went on.
Yeah.
LOL. But yeah, the hikes and the lodge, national forests are incredible. We went to the Olympic National Forest. There's a, lodge there that's very historic. So that's what I'm going to say, because I think it might pique your listeners' interest and
Totally.
open your eyes to just say what's around where you are.
Oh, I love that answer, because my wife and I got turned on to this idea many years ago, but so often we travel abroad, we travel far distances to experience these amazing things, and not everywhere in the world has an abundance of like beautiful nature and everything. So maybe this doesn't apply to everyone, but there's so much to experience in your own town, in your own backyard. Like finding ways to just explore your own community, your own region as a tourist would, is such a cool thing to do, because like you said, there's so many amazing things that you've never done that are out there, that people that were visiting, that would be on top of their
Right.
list. So it's cool to just kind of put that tourist hat on for a weekend or for a week and just explore your own area as a tourist would. Go to those cheesy touristy spots, go to the amazing viewpoints that there may be a bunch of people there, but there's a bunch of people there for a reason, because it's awesome. And I find that we just have such fun adventures when we do that. And even if it's just hanging around here in Bend and walking through a neighborhood we've never been to, looking for
Right.
particular colors on houses or interesting architecture,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
we're actually, Steve and I are watching one of the most fascinating documentaries I have ever seen in my long life, and that is on Leonardo da Vinci.
Ah, yes.
And his level of observation is just mind blowing. The whole story is mind blowing, but I don't know. It's just on such a different level, but it still reminds me of sales and relationships and business relationships, because you really have to explore on maybe not that deep a level where you're cutting up cadavers, but being curious. And when you talk about Bend, I think of Big Eddy, the rapid.
Yeah,
I don't know.
rapid. Yep.
So you've done that. Paulina Plunge. Where you bike down the mountain, and there are all these natural waterfalls, which are actually made of rock, and they like scraped me up. But
Yeah.
anyway, wherever you live, there are amazing things that you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
I've been in 48 states. Every state I've been in
Wow,
has
that's so
had
cool.
something amazing.
Yeah. I want to
Except
visit
maybe
all
South
states.
Dakota, that was probably Wall Drug was the most exciting thing. You probably don't know what it is. For miles you drive, and it has billboards. The story is that the store has billboards for miles and miles. And at first you're like, it's cheesy, we're not stopping.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, by the time you get there. Have you ever been there by chance?
No, I haven't. No.
It's not a destination, so
Yeah.
but they are marketing themselves in a way that you get there, and there is no way you can drive by.
No, you got to stop. Well, Kay, this has been awesome. We could talk for another hour easily on adventure and branding and everything. But for listeners who have made it this far, if they had just one thing from this conversation specifically about personal branding that they should take away, they should pay the most attention to, what would you say that would be?
Well, the first thing would be to buy the book Uncopyable You,
Yes,
which
buy
takes you through this whole process. But if you don't want to do that, I would say what you talked about is taking the time, like you did, to identify those 5 things. As simple as it seems to plan where you want to go, have a vision, have your foundational principles. So many people don't take time to do that. We're busy. We are busy getting nothing done a lot of times, maybe on social media or whatever. So that's my piece of advice, is to at least know for yourself what is important to you. And then one little tidbit is to ask people what would you say my brand is? And that is more important than when you think it is, really, in the world of business. What do you think of me?
Yeah.
What do you think of me? It's all about
hard question to ask, but very valuable. Very valuable. You might get some amazing feedback of things that you're like, oh, really? Like, that's such a great thing that people think about me. I never would have thought that. Or there might be some things where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I need to work on that, because that isn't how I want to show up.
We're never done. We're never perfect.
No, never ever. Well, Kay, where can people support you online, find the book? I'm really jealous of the domain you own, so go ahead and shout that out again, because I know that's a great gateway to everything.
Right. I will. So our even though our company is officially The Adventure, we have theadventure.com, but now, because of the Uncopyable framework, all the Uncopyable books, you can search Amazon for Uncopyable. Our books are the only ones that will come up. You can find me on LinkedIn, Miller K, which is Kay. You can email me, k@beuncopyable.com, or go to beuncopyable.com. So those are some of the ways. Also, I do have a giveaway, a 5-step building a profitable brand and get you started. And that is beuncopyable.com/5-emails. So are those enough ways?
Those are great ways, and we'll make it really easy by putting the links to everything in the show notes. So you're just one click away from connecting with Kay. Definitely grab that freebie. That sounds like a tremendous value add, and check out the book, because I got a ton of value just getting the high level of everything that it covers on this conversation. So it's definitely worth diving into. Okay, I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing all the value and also some of the amazing adventures that you've been on. And till next time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to know you and your brand online through your podcast. Enjoyed this conversation tremendously. So, very grateful. Thank you so much.
To all of our adventurous listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share this on social media or with someone will get some value from it. Leaving a review goes a long way in helping people find the show, and I personally appreciate reading them when they come in. So please go drop one if you have the time. We'll see you all next week, and remember, whether we're talking about business or the things that bring us joy outside of work, life is meant for exploring. So go out there and live it one adventure at a time.